Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day. We are jumping back into the SCP universe here with the Exploring series. Today we're going to be taking a look at SCP-096, the Shy Guy. I have seen some things about this. I don't know specifics about the Shy Guy, but I do know that, you know, I've heard of the name in context with the SCP stuff. Whenever I think of Shy Guy, I just think of the, you know, stuff from Mario Bros, but that's just me. That's where my brain goes. But anyway, so yeah, we're gonna be taking a look at that today. Links will be down below in the description to the Exploring series channel and to this video of his. If you do me a favor, click those links. If you like this video, give his video a like. Go over there and check out his content. He makes a lot of great stuff for the SCP universe, as well as many other you know, lore-based stuff. I think he's got some Lord of the Rings stuff, some 40k stuff, etc. Go check out his stuff and give the man a sub if you haven't already. But for now, we're gonna jump into this here. So yeah, this is SCP-096, the Shy Guy. So take a look at this. Volume up. Let's go.
SCP-096, the Shy Guy. In the SCP universe, violent monsters are more or less a dime a dozen. Much of the SCP Foundation's resources are spent containing creatures that would happily murder the global population, given the chance. With this in mind then, what exactly does it take for one of these monsters to stand out from the rest?
Yeah, true.
SCP-096 is an early SCP, and yet it's managed to both stick around in popular discussion and garner one of the highest ratings across the whole site.
Interesting.
Let's look at what makes this monster unique, and some of the interactions that the Foundation has had with it. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature, standing approximately 2.38 meters tall, or close to 8 feet. It is pale, hairless, possesses very little muscle mass, and its arms are extremely out of proportion in length, each being 1.5 meters long. Its eyes are also devoid of pigmentation, possibly suggesting that it is blind. And it is capable of opening its jaw up to 4 times the norm of an average human.
Very creepy.
Normally, 096 is completely docile, spending its time in its cell pacing across the floor. It shows no signs of possessing any higher brain functions, and the Foundation does not consider it to be sapient. However, when anyone, anywhere, views 096's face, whether directly, through a camera, a recording, or even a photograph, 096 will immediately enter a state of emotional distress. It will begin screaming and crying, covering its face with its hands, lasting for a minute or two. Following this, 096 will begin running towards the individual that viewed its face. So far, the SCP Foundation has found no way to physically impede 096, and it's capable of running in excess of 100 kilometers per hour.
Damn. Okay, so far, we have some kind of humanoid creature that is completely docile for whatever reason. Doesn't seem to have any kind of higher functions, doesn't seem to talk or communicate or whatever, but for whatever reason, and apparently it knows, when someone looks at its face, whether it's in person, through a camera, or even a photograph, potentially even across the other side of the planet, I'm assuming, it knows somehow, and then is essentially able to break out of any kind of containment whatsoever, it sounds like so far, chase that person down, and I would assume kill them. Interesting. And it's able to run in excess of 100 miles or 100 kilometers an hour, I think it said. Right? Not 100 miles per hour, I think it said 100 kilometers an hour. There's the difference.
The Foundation has found no way to physically impede 096, and it's capable of running in excess of 100 kilometers per hour.
Right.
096 seems to have innate knowledge of when anyone sees its face.
Interesting.
Regardless of distance, and knows exactly how to find them. A test was done by sending a D-class in a deep-sea submersible 10,800 meters down into the Tonga Trench by New Zealand, hundreds of kilometers away from 096's position. The D-Class was instructed to view a photograph that had been taken of 096, at which point 096 quickly broke containment and began running in the direction of the D-Class. The path had been cleared of civilians, and the Foundation tracked 096 by satellite. Meanwhile, the D-Class was instructed to sketch a drawing of the photograph, which is then sent to the surface in a watertight container. Reaching the Tonga Trench, 096 begins diving down, finally reaching the submersible. It tears it open, the D-Class dies, and 096 is recovered. Viewing the sketches of 096 cause no adverse reaction.
So a drawing, and I would assume then a painting, doesn't matter. But the actual physical photo being looked at, or a tape recording, does. So somehow it has some kind of psychic or otherwise knowledge, knowing that someone is physically looking at what it actually looks like, not an interpretation of someone's drawing or painting of it. That doesn't seem to matter. Also, I guess it would seem that once it's killed someone, it goes inactive again. So, like, I would assume, like, it just floated and decompressed back up. Obviously, it's pretty crazy if that they had this guy go in the submersible all the way down, like 10,000 feet, I think they said. It was able to swim down there, tear this open. I would assume the guy would probably die from the pressure before the D-Class or the Shy Guy actually physically killed him. But then, like, yeah, the fact that the pressure didn't kill Shy Guy and or the decompression going back up didn't do anything to him, that's also very interesting.
When 096 inevitably reaches a target that has seen its face, it kills the target and then does something to the body that leaves no trace. It's likely that this is something more horrific than simply consumption. Afterwards, if there is no one else that has seen its face, 096 will return to its docile state and proceed to return to its natural habitat, an expunged location, but likely.
An interesting test would be to throw someone up in space and do it. Put a D-Class up there in a space shuttle and see if our man can fucking, like, hop out in space and see what that does. Or if he just, like, flips out and, like, runs around in a circle beneath him until the guy gets down.
A mountain range. 096 will return to its docile state and proceed to return to its natural habitat, an expunged location, but likely a mountain range. Retrieval of 096 is considered the highest priority to the Foundation, due to the risk of a mass chain reaction of people seeing 096. We're then given an interview between a doctor and a former captain of a retrieval team that was sent to initially retrieve 096. The retrieval took place in an extremely cold location, but 096 did not seem bothered by this, simply wandering the area.
Would you have to, like, put a bag over its face or something like that? Like, wouldn't you just want to do that? Like, just cover its face permanently so that no photos, no nothing could ever be taken? Just, like, literally put a bag over his face and just leave it there. And just let the man, or whatever it is, just chill in peace in its little cell.
One of the retrieval squads landed their helicopter and approached the target to apprehend it. While doing so, the captain received a call, causing him to turn away. At the same time, 096 turned around, causing the rest of the squad to see its face.
Yikes.
The captain says it began screaming and crying, sounding much more like a human than an animal, and they fired upon it as it tore off the leg of one of the agents. The team utilized heavy weaponry against 096 to no effect, including an anti-tank gun that destroyed half of its torso, and roughly 600 rounds from a .50 caliber Gatling gun.
Jesus.
It seems as though 096's flesh and organs are vulnerable to conventional weaponry, but its bones were completely unaffected, and it continued to slaughter the squad. The second squad arrived and placed a bag over its head, causing it to become docile. Somehow, the captain managed to survive by never actually viewing its face.
Like I said, put a bag over its head.
The interview led to the doctor requesting that 096 be terminated as soon as possible. Terminations are not often attempted at the SCP Foundation, going against their mission statement, and often the Foundation doesn't even possess the means to terminate most SCPs. That's a big part of what makes 096 unique, as we're given a lengthy log of an incident that convinces the O5 Council that 096 should be terminated. This itself is not the termination attempt, which, depending on your canon view, has not actually occurred, but it does add quite a bit to 096's story. The instant...
So, it seems to be kind of almost... What? They hit it with an anti-tank gun, 50 cal rounds. I think they said that, like, ruptured part of its torso, but it still lived, right? Let me listen to this again.
The team utilized heavy weaponry against 096 to no effect, including an anti-tank gun that destroyed half of its torso, and roughly 600 rounds from a 50 caliber Gatling gun.
It survived all that. That's pretty insane.
It seems as though 096's flesh and organs are vulnerable to conventional weaponry, but its bones were completely unaffected, and it continued to slaughter the squad.
So he's literally Wolverine. He's got the adamantium bones and is just able to, like, keep going. I assume that means his flesh will regenerate over those bones.
The second squad arrived and placed a bag over its head, causing it to become docile. Somehow, the captain managed to survive by never actually viewing its face. The interview led to the doctor requesting that 096 be terminated as soon as possible. Terminations are not often attempted at the SCP Foundation, going against their mission statement, and often the Foundation doesn't even possess the means to terminate most SCPs. That's a big part of what makes 096 unique, as we're given a lengthy log of an incident that convinces the O5 Council that 096 should be terminated. This itself is not the termination attempt, which, depending on your canon view, has not actually occurred, but it does add quite a bit to 096's story.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting for, I guess, the O5 Council to actually approve of termination, right? For an SCP to actually be approved for termination by the SCP Foundation, that would have to be, yeah, have to be something pretty drastic, right?
The incident begins at 096's containment cell, as a dozen or so researchers are looking at monitors in the adjacent control booth. Suddenly, a wall of the containment cell begins bulging outwards as 096 fights against it. 096 soon breaks the wall, and two security teams enter the room to try and subdue or tranquilize it, to no effect. Most of the security team and the researchers have viewed 096's face at this point, and so the rooms are flooded with a nerve agent. 2 minutes later, 096 escapes from the research site and begins running at high speeds across the surrounding desert. A recontainment team proceeds to chase after 096 in a helicopter and attempts to stop it with a modified anti-material rifle. A shot hits 096 in the leg, causing it to stumble for a moment but not slow down, and a shot to the head causes it to fall and roll, but quickly gets back to its feet and continues running. The Foundation begins trying to figure out where and who the target was that caused the breach, and clears out population centers in 096's path, the process overseen by a Dr. Alexi. Another researcher working on 096, Dr. Dan, was in a mountain range trying to find out more about 096's origins.
Well, you know, I'm sitting here thinking the whole time. I'm sorry to interrupt in the middle of the story, but I'm like thinking the whole time, it's like, I wonder what other stuff they've tried, right? So, like, conventional weapons have an effect on it to an extent, but it seems like it's, I guess, bone structure is indestructible to that, I guess, maybe, potentially. I wonder if there's a situation where they could use some of the amnestics, like, you know, they've got the amnestics from, you know, what was it, SCP-3000, the Anata Shasha, or whatever it was called. Couldn't they, like, somehow inject it with some of those? Would that, like, make it forget that someone looked at its face, you know, or is that just like not possible? You know what I mean? And again, like, I don't understand why this creature wouldn't have some kind of device that like would just be permanently over its face and it would not be able to be removed at all, like ever. Other than, I guess, because I mean, like, what circumstance would you need to remove it unless it died? You know what I mean? But then, like, yeah, remove all kinds of records of any kind of anything that would reveal its face, remove any kind of records, expunge all that, and just, yeah, make sure that its face is always covered whatsoever. Yeah, there's a whole video just about the execution attempts of Shy Guy. I might have to watch that and follow that up. I'm curious of what they've tried to do or whatever. Because this seems like it's almost kind of like X82, where it's just like impossible to kill, I guess. I don't know. I'd be interested in, like, can it be nuked and vaporized kind of a situation? Have they tried that, you know? Anyway, let's continue.
Alexi. Another researcher working on 096, Dr. Dan, was in a mountain range trying to find out more about 096's origins. Dr. Dan and Dr. Alexi had designed a new piece of technology to help with containing 096, called Project Scramble. Project Scramble was an eyepiece containing a microprocessor that constantly analyzed its viewing field for the facial features of 096. If detected, it would scramble 096's face into an unrecognizable mess before the light reached the wearer's eye, protecting them from 096's effect. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Mobile Task Force Tau-1 was also sent in to recontain 096, equipped with Project Scramble visors. By this point, 096 is outrunning the helicopters and is tearing up a highway.
Damn.
096's travel of direction caused it to pass through a few towns, and so the MTF is forced to gather up all of the townspeople and blindfold them, so that they don't see 096's face.
That would be a hell of a task.
The fourth town, however, holds the original target of 096's rage. All of the citizens of the town are gathered in the town square, blindfolded, and are told by the MTF to stay where they are and keep their blindfolds on, otherwise they will be shot. As 096 comes over a hill and lets out a loud shrieking sound, several of the civilians are shot, presumably for removing their blindfolds. 096 barrels into the crowd, throwing people aside and trampling others while it looks for its target, and more shots are heard. Finally, 096 locates its target, a middle-aged man, and the camera feed goes out once it grabs him. We learn from the commander of MTF Tau-1 that the target was a mountaineer that took a trip to a mountain range, again likely 096's natural habitat, and took a picture of the landscape. Apparently, this picture contained 4 pixels of 096's face in the background.
The fuck?
The commander guesses that at some point after the fact, the target looked at the picture and noticed the 4 pixels.
Even 4 pixels, brother? You're getting a little crazy now.
Without actually realizing what he was looking at. The team's Scramble gear picked up the pixels right away while looking at the photo, but he goes on to say that Scramble was a colossal failure that led to the death of most of his team.
I would say so.
He says they could have just put a bag over his head, but instead they had to use the idiotic...
Bro, I'm solving all the problems for the SCP Foundation here, man. Just put a bag over its head, like I said. Throw something on there that's got like a collar attached to it that can't be taken off or whatever. It's, you know, it can breathe through it, but no light can pass through one way or the other.
Scramble gear. Dr. Dan explains that Scramble failed because they didn't fully understand how 096 worked. He says that in theory it should have worked, but before the computers could actually scramble the image, a split second of light would hit the eye, activating 096's effect. He says that the mountaineer went on his trip over a decade ago and had the picture hanging in his house the entire time. He wonders how many other ticking time bomb photographs are out there that contain 096's face and are waiting to be noticed. He repeats his request to have 096 terminated. We learn that after killing its original target, along with most of the MTF, 096 went back to the highway to finish off everyone else that had seen its face. It was found sitting on the highway after tearing apart a minivan, and they managed to get a bag over its head. The agent who bagged 096 was later found to have committed suicide, and it's implied that he witnessed 096 doing something horrific to an infant.
Yikes.
We're given
This kind of begged the question of, if you can't take a look at it, how are you supposed to do some of these things? You know, I guess you're supposed to close your eyes and just go by feel or whatever, dude. Like, that would be terrifying as well.
a short separate log taken from a confiscated tape belonging to CNN. It shows a field reporter discussing a crashed plane with a large hole in the side of it, and only 3 bodies were found inside, compared to the expected 20. Apparently, 096 is capable of reaching targets in the air, as well as on the ground and underwater, making it even more dangerous.
Again, throw someone up in space in a shuttle, have a D-class look at the picture and see what happens then. Because, I mean, if it goes up into space and then it just starts floating away, I mean, hey, then the problem solved itself.
Dr. Alexi, who earlier in the log said that he was in a break room getting coffee when 096 breached confinement, is caught in his lie, as there is no break room at that site. He proceeds to confess to both his and Dr. Dan's involvement in causing the breach. It seems that they were both convinced of the need to terminate 096, but the O5 Council wasn't going for it, so they wanted to show how dangerous it could be.
They staged an event. Yeah.
How exactly they engineered the breach is unknown, but it is likely they made Project Scramble faulty on purpose, or knew it wouldn't work.
Interesting.
Their plan ultimately worked, horrific as it was, and the Council decides to approve their request for 096's termination, along with the termination of the 2 doctors. So far, there hasn't been any document written by the original 096 author going over its termination, or attempted termination, but SCP canon being what it is, you can decide for yourself how you think that played out. SCP-096 is an early SCP, and shows a lot of hallmarks of an early SCP, but it is nonetheless a great way to get into the weird world of SCP. Why does this monster exist?
Right.
Why does it hate having its face seen?
How can it tell from so far away that it's being looked at?
And are there more than one of them in the world?
True, that too.
Questions like these, with no answers, are what draw most people into the mysteries of the SCP universe.
Huh, you know, I wonder if this is some kind of, you know, human mutation from, the, like, Lazarus SCP that brings, you know, revives humanity in the event of a world-ending, you know, situation. I can't remember what the SCP number is, but, you know, I wonder if it's some kind of mutation from that happens, or if it's some kind of other proto-human or whatever that, you know, has been a species that's, you know, lived along with us and evolved with us throughout the ages, or I don't know. But it's interesting that it's somehow just able, through some kind of psychic ability, I guess, that it just knows that someone's seen its face, and it sets it off and it tracks it down and just kills them. And there's, like, literally seemingly nothing that you can do till it happens. It would be an interesting story for a horror movie, you know, honestly. They you know, the idea of someone looking at the idea of, like, a picture, and, you know, like, yeah, there's, like, just 4 little pictures of pixels of this picture or whatever that maybe a group of people have seen, and then systematically all of a sudden these people start getting, you know, killed or mutilated or whatever, and they don't really know why, and it comes back to this picture, and they find this creature and they contain it, but it keeps breaking containment and going after these people. I don't know. It'd be an interesting concept for a movie. But I do think I'll probably follow up at some point in time with, I guess, the video on the execution attempts, just to see what they did and how, and I don't know, because it does kind of sound like it has a similar, I guess, idea to like Wolverine, like I said, where its muscular or its skeletal structure, I guess, is seemingly impervious, and I guess it just regenerates. So, but again, I wonder, you know, would amnestics work with it? Could you erase its memory so it wouldn't know that someone's viewed it? And again, why not just, like I said, write some kind of device that you could just put over its face and have it locked in place so that no light gets in and out, but I guess it could still breathe or whatever, and you can study it how you want to, but no one could see it, you know? But I mean, would it then still, like, even if that bag was on and no light got through, if a camera still locked onto its face, would it still perceive someone as looking at it? You know what I mean? I don't know. It'd be interesting, again, to test. And of course, like I said, you know, if it can get someone in the water and get someone, you know, in air, throw someone in a shuttle and put them in space and have them look at a photo and see what it does then. Truly test its limits. If it can get into, if it can like jump up there and get into space and tear someone up, then yeah, that would be something, that would be quite an interesting feat to see how it does that. And then you would assume at that point, then it's just going to start floating off. I guess maybe it would get stuck in Earth's gravity and fall down somewhere. So I mean, that I guess could be a problem. But if it escapes our gravity, then hey, there you go. Problem solved. It floats away. So anyway, I guess let's finish the last little bit of this video here.
And even after nearly a decade, 096 is still drawing people in.
That's who we got for a quote. 05-1. Upon reviewing your testimony and available footage and the confession of the late Dr. Alexi, I think that's how it's pronounced. Alexi. It is the unanimous agreement of the 05 that you are to be terminated for your part in the gross breach of SCP-096. Dr. Dan and I thought you would know the meaning of for the greater good. Interesting. Very interesting. So, I mean, well, I've kind of given my thoughts about it already with that little talk that I just had before we go to the end here, but it is a fascinating story. The idea of, I could see it being adapted in a movie to where, like, yeah, people wouldn't necessarily know what this creature is, where it's coming from, why it would be, you know, coming at them. Somehow they could tie it together that would have to do with this picture, and maybe they saw it, and I don't know, they could have some way of erasing the creature's memory from their minds that it would, you know, leave them alone, but then maybe somehow they keep coming back to seeing this picture or whatever. I don't know. There could be a lot of different twists and turns and ways of doing it to turn it into a movie that could be interesting. So yeah, another very another interesting tale with another interesting monster. And again, I'll probably do a follow-up with the video going on to about how they've tried to execute it and see what they've did and what worked and what hasn't worked. So but yeah, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Again, that was SCP-096, the Shy Guy by the Exploring series. Links will be down below in the description to the Exploring series channel and to this original video of his without my commentary and reaction. You'll do me a favor, click on those links, check out the original video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If you enjoy the content that the Exploring series makes, you know, give the man a sub. He's got a Patreon. Go give him some support. If you want to take your support to the next level and give him some monetary support, do so. You know, I'm sure he would appreciate the love and support. As you can see, we're doing this reaction live from our YouTube members here. If you want to join in our discussions that we have, we'd love to have you guys come in here and hang out while we're doing these reactions. You can also get up to a week's worth of early access to my videos, as well as a bunch of other benefits. So if any of that has any kind of interest for you, there's a join button down below. There's also a link in the description to the membership benefits. Take a look at those, see if any of those have any kind of interest for you. If you would like to take your support to the next level and support me monetarily, I would greatly appreciate it. Any kind of monetary support obviously keeps me doing this stuff on YouTube, helps me focus on this and allows me to spend more time doing this for you guys. So if you enjoy the content and you want to go there, I would greatly appreciate it. Regardless of that, I just appreciate you guys coming and taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos. If you enjoyed it, do consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and it helps the channel grow. And yeah, just thank you very much for coming in and hanging out. It means a lot. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day whenever you're watching this. I'll see y'all in the next one.